I wrote a novel! I should practice these things beforehand. I was supposed to swing around, but that's alright. Follow me on my journey. Hi everyone, welcome back to A Writer's Journey. This is chapter. I'm going to call them chapters because it's a writer's journey after all. This is chapter 3. Not very far along in my journey at this particular point, but just a quick review. In the first chapter I talked about getting the idea down. The second chapter was associated with plotting, and I told you that I basically plot by seat of the pants, which works for me, but it also ended up with me having to write and then abandon and then write and abandon. Well, that write and abandon stuff got worse. This was my first novel. I'd written a variety of nonfiction works, but never tackled a novel before. So that's where I ran into trouble. I wrote, a good 200 pages of my revised, from last week, my revised novel. It looked at Lazarus in present day, but it used the stuff I had written prior to that about the diary of Lazarus, and I still hadn't figured out how I was going to make a code be embedded in it. But I worked it out so that one of the characters had to find the code, and so that character had to read portions of it, and so I was able to include that writing, at least part of that writing, in the new version. And getting to about page 200 or so, I was thinking, wow, this is easy. This is just flowing out. Aren't I good? I wasn't good. It was horrible, but I couldn't see it. I read it to my wife, and at first she thought, oh, it's okay. I shared it with a couple of other people who were not writers, and they said it was okay. In fact, that they kind of liked it, which only reinforced my feeling that it was good. But I didn't understand the mechanics of writing fictional works. And I'll get in more to that. Certainly, we're going to start looking at where the mechanics broke down for me. I'm just taking the broad view of what happened here. But I did do one thing right. I decided that, well, I was looking on the web. I found that there were certain editors, and there were some editors that would look at like the first 50 pages and give you some comments about what was going on. So I decided to do that. And it wasn't very expensive. So if you want to go that route, I would certainly suggest that, especially if you're a first-time writer and you've got some stuff down that you feel good about. So I sent it out. Actually, I sent it out to 3 different places, because I wanted to get a variety of opinions. And some of them were going to do one thing and some of them were going to do another thing. And then they started to filter back. And when they filtered back, the results really were not that good. They were doing a good job, but as they were pointing out to me, things didn't fit together well. And once again, the mechanics weren't right, and we'll get into things like that. My point of view was just totally all over the map, and it shouldn't have been. I was telling more than I should show, or telling more than I should be showing. And I'll tell you this, during this process, as I began to learn about show, not tell, that's sort of the mantra, show, don't tell, I came to hate that mantra. And I'll share something I put together about that. I hated it, but it is right. I mean, but not, don't overdo it. and that'll explain. If you don't know what show don't tell is, I'll explain that when I come up, probably in the next video. At any rate, I got this feedback, and it was dismal. I was doing everything wrong. So for the second time, I had to put that away and start over. Now I could use bits and pieces of what I still had, just like I could with the Lazarus stuff. I could use bits and pieces of it. I could, take a paragraph here. I could take even a scene and just rewrite it. But it was clear that I had an inflated opinion of my own writing, and I needed to listen to others. And it was at this point that I also got some books on writing fiction. They were somewhat helpful. They certainly got me started in the right direction as I went through this sort of third look at the book. So that's what I would recommend for you. Find some people on the web. Don't do friends. Find people on the web who, for $50 or a couple $100. And that's another thing. You need to be willing to invest money into your work here. It's just, you just don't write it down and then get a publisher and then they start sending you royalty checks. It doesn't work that way. So do that. Find some people, third parties, pay the money, send it out, and really take to heart what they say. It's not a case of, well, they don't understand what I want to do. That won't work. That doesn't bode well. All right, so that's sort of principle 3. That's the result. That's the third chapter. If you like this, hit like. Certainly subscribe, particularly if you want to keep up to date with the videos as they come out every Wednesday. I'm shooting for, and give me comments. Did you go through similar experiences? How did you deal with it? What are you going through right now? Are there questions you might have? Be sure to put those in, and I'll try to respond to those as well. So, goodbye, and have fun writing.